You're listening to Best Forevers, a podcast for kindred spirits. A podcast that encourages you to love more on your friends and to further consider the issues that plague friendships. I'm Alysa Lucas, and I'm really contemplating on the fact that 6 weeks ago it was snowing, and then on today, it's Monday before this comes out, and it's freezing outside. And I think both coincide with the start and finish of the Game of Thrones Season 8. And so winter's coming, and apparently it's still here. But I have Haley back. Hi, Haley.
Hi, I'm excited to be back.
She was here for both Game of Thrones episodes 75 and 76, to talk about friendship on Game of Thrones from seasons 1 through 7. And now that we've seen the complete season 8, and not trying to cry about it, now we have to come back together to talk about our feelings, our thoughts, how wrong our predictions were.
Very wrong.
And just overall thoughts, and then see if the theory that we had that person who was going to end up on the Iron Throne would have friendships. So, how are you feeling the night after the finale, Haley?
Wow, these are some really fresh open wounds since we're not even 24 hours after that finale. But really excited to process through this. I think it's been an interesting, these last couple of episodes, especially seeing all of the fans' reactions.
Oh,
and I'm kind of somewhere in between of like, you can't be disappointed. I mean, you can't also, I don't think that any ending could really do justice to the entire series. Like, everyone's always going to be wanting more, you know? So, and I think that as much as I tried to contemplate what else I would have expected, I couldn't really find another outcome within my own thoughts. Even though it didn't really confirm the suspicions that we had and the predictions that we made, I think that the outcome was still fit for every single character. So I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, I'm not either, and I'm actually kind of irritated, if I might say so, with all the people who are posting today, the morning after, that's like, sorry you're stupid, or you're sorry your dragon show ended stupidly, and I was like, but it didn't.
No.
But also I think that when something big like this that you've invested almost a decade of your life in, and maybe you've read the books or you have these connections to particular characters or actors or actresses, that in some ways you don't want it to end. So maybe you're acting out a little bit. And so, okay, I understand 6 episodes, maybe not enough. Maybe things moved a little bit faster than, say, like, how long were Arya and the Hound on the road for, like, 7 seasons, you know? And then now we see them, like, one scene, and then it's like, that's all the time that they were on the road. And so I understand that it's compacted and that it's not based on the author's source material. But as I understand it, he signed off on the season, so it might be very reflective of the books, if we ever get that.
Very true.
Yeah.
Still waiting.
But part of me is thinking, like, overall, as just a fan of television, this is probably the best, if not one of the best TV shows to ever graced our TV screens. And so if you think about it overall, like, story, 10 out of 10. Writing, I'll give people, for the last season, I'll take, like, the 10 to 20% up. 8.5, right?
Yeah.
Acting, 10.
Absolutely.
Special effects, 10. Like, I mean, everything about it is stellar. I feel like every single episode I've watched is a mini movie.
It is. And to have that much production compacted into individual episodes and have that much over the course of 8 seasons is just, it's incredible. Yeah, I posted on Facebook last night because I am such a huge lover of television. I talk about it all the time on the podcast, that when I was little, I used to, like, pull the chair, like, the rocking chair in our living room right up to the television, like, so I could be as close to the television as possible, and I just watch so much TV every day, and it's not saying that I don't get done when I need to get done, but I just have always loved television, and this has been one of the best experiences of television, and I'm glad to have been part of it, It's Absolutely.
So I guess that takes us back to the start. I mean, there's 6 episodes this season. What were some of the things that stood out to you about the season in general? And then we'll get into friendship. And so the things that stand out could deal with friendship, but just overall.
I think overall, what differed in this season, which is there was much more of a focus on the big visual elements as opposed to like the really rich dialogue that we saw in earlier seasons, but also kind of goes into, there was a lot that had to be packed into this season. So some of that relationship development, I think it was nice to see those elements of reunion. And I think that the writers gave us that in the first couple episodes of bringing everyone back together. And I think it was really cool to see everything that had started and derived from Winterfell to end back there. And it seemed really appropriate for that. It was great to see all of the Stark children that are remaining reunited. And
sorry, Rob and Rickon.
I know.
Rickon. Wait, what's his name again?
Rickon. Yeah.
I can never get him right.
And to see them come back together and to see some of those other relationships, that we had talked about, Jaime and Brienne, for example, come and have that moment of reunion and see that their own individual character development really kind of come full circle, but then also those relationships to kind of have that end point. Yeah.
Before the major battle with the Night King, so episode 3 of the season, I rewatched episode 1 of the series. And it's one of those things, like, I was reminded that when the Lannisters came at the very beginning of the show to the king was going to ask Ned to be his hand of the king, right? That you have that whole hullabaloo with the army and the men and the people and so on and so forth. And you have Arya who's like all excited about these people coming. And you get that same aspect. They show like little kids and you see Arya step away so that they can have the same experience as her, as like Dany's soldiers and the armies and everyone comes into Winterfell to fight the Night King. And so I was reminded of like how far the show has come. And I think if like I rewatched everything recently, as I know you did too. And so I'm wondering if some of the complaints regarding the season are, I mean, maybe there is no connection, but I also wonder if it's anyone who hasn't watched the entire show again before the season started, because although I realize everything was accelerated, I do think that you see a full sort of arc for things. Like you see these sort of little nuggets of information or visuals that would indicate that Dany might take this route, right? That, just different things like that. Or to be reminded that Jaime Lannister is kind of the worst. And although we talked about him having one of the most amazing arcs, that maybe sometimes we can change and sometimes we go back to what's comfortable. Right. And so I like this idea of reunions, but I also like the idea of we're seeing the characters come back together, but I'm also seeing it as someone who's watching it see the show come together, if you know what I mean. And so like the whole thing is a reunion in a way.
Absolutely. I think that definitely going back, even the day of the premiere, went back through season 7 and watched some of those critical moments, and it's the writings on the wall the whole time. You knew that Dany was headed on this path. She said from the beginning she was going to take back what was hers with fire and blood. And, it's literally through the whole thing. So
literally what she did.
Not sure where the surprise was there. But even, with some of those other elements and with all those characters, as you're saying, you could see it. There were seeds planted early on, whether it was through a vision or through something that was said or in the dialogue. It made sense to see it wrap up in the way that it did.
I think, and I understand, and I think that I try to do the positive thinking thing, because I know that if I think it's going to be bad, then it'll end up being bad. We start looking for those things. And I understand that when something ends, you don't want it to end, so you kind of act out or fight back and that sort of thing. But I do get the points that people are making about Dany's character. Yeah. But specifically, I think because it isn't based on source material that people have read yet, and that so it's a different writing team who's writing it then, because it's not based on source material. They're creating it based maybe on ideas or an outline. That I think because it contextualizes in our current events in history, that it says a whole lot more. And so I think in the last several weeks, we've seen a lot of things like the war on women, the abortion bans and things like that. So when you see a very strong, powerful woman character that people have been following for almost a decade, and then see that, I talked about this in orientation on campus today. Oh, she just went mad, right? Yeah. Just like her father did. And so it's because she's a woman, and given our current climate, that seems problematic.
Yeah.
But the story, in terms of what we know it's definitely a possibility. I just think that when you couple it with the things that we're feeling now about things that are going on in our world, it can be disappointing. Like, why is it gotta be the woman?
Right.
Absolutely.
You know what I
mean?
Which was refreshing too, with that, to see a lot of other strong female characters. To see Brienne as the head of the Kingsguard, and to see Sansa become the Queen of Winterfell as an Independence Day. Love that. And of course Arya going on her own voice. So they had, I think that we did see that. But you're right, to have that hallmark female character that we've been following her story and really seeing her rise up from, she was sold. She was sold, and to see her come out of that, and to come out of, literally come out of the ashes, to be where she is. But because of the positionality of her storyline, as you're saying, with where it was at, the corruption that can be caused by power. Yeah. And I almost think too, the way that that ended, it would have been one thing to take her even further into that madness, or take her even further into that destruction, even though she did burn down an entire city. Yeah. But to almost end that before it could get worse was helpful for me, I think, to see that. And then also to have those other storylines expanded. Yeah, when she was basically in the series finale episode last night, she was basically telling her men, her soldiers, that they have freed the people from a tyrant, Cersei, who's under a bunch of rocks, and she's and the dragon have burned King's Landing to the ground, and then is like, we have freed him from a tyrant. Now let's go back to Winterfell and do it, and let's go here and do it. And it's like, wait, I thought the war was over. Right. No, it's just beginning. And so people, they saw it as they're leading into this last season, is that first off, we have to fight for humanity, right, against the Night King and all these snow zombies, right? And then the next war was going to be the last war, is what it was called, with Cersei, and that is to take the power back, because Cersei probably shouldn't have power, and based on our discussion, because she has toxic relationships, that our theory was that she was not going to make it on the Iron Throne, and she didn't. So we were right there. True, we were. None of the toxic people that we talked about are alive. Right. So they're all dead, right? Right. Oh, yeah, they're all gone. See, it pays to be it pays to be kind. Yes, very true. Just in oxygen, apparently. Living. Yes. So a couple other things about the final season. What did you think about the war with the Night King? That was probably my favorite episode, I think, out of the 6. Because aside from the fact that it was really dark the whole time, and it was really hard to say, I think the memes about that were probably my favorite. Yeah. But I think that it was really astonishing to see some of the characters, either minor or the ones that we are kind of some of those unexpected turns of, we have Lyanna, to have one of the youngest and smallest people taking down the biggest giant. That was, even though it was really sad to see her die in that process, but to have that unexpected win there. And then I don't think it was unexpected that Arya would end up taking down the Night King, but it was almost like she follow her journey throughout the battle, and then kind of forget where she's at, and then everything's doom and gloom, and you think it's all over, and then to have that hand switch stab, that moment just took my breath away. So to see some of those characters again, sort of the younger female characters really have those big wins in the battle was really cool. It was amazing to see all of these people come together in one united force. He's starting off with the Dothraki taking off, and having the Red Woman come in and really kind of have some redeeming qualities there and have some closure. So I think that there were really small individual elements that were those wins to see that were really, really cool and unique. But then the larger picture of literally everyone except for King's Landing and Cersei and the Lannister army come together to be that united front, and something to seem so impossible, but then with one stab at the end, having that win was really cool. Well, and I think they knew that was the only way to get him, but how are they going to get him? Who was going to do it? I think that
I think even Kit Harington, who plays Jon Snow, was like, I thought it was going to be Jon Snow. Why isn't it not Jon Snow? And I think there was some commentary about, again, like these feminine-related issues or feminist-related issues, that it's like, why did Arya do it? She's done that move before. If you've watched the show or watch all the behind the scenes, like you see her doing that. She did that when she was training with Brienne when they made it back to Winterfell. She has done that move before. So when I saw, I was like, oh no, not Arya. And then I was like, wait, there it is. Yeah. And so it's like, and given all of her training, that she's going to be the quietest one to get up in there. And I think that they were setting us up for that with the library scene when there are all the zombies in there, but she was so quiet and could get around them and so on and so forth. And I like you, thought that was the best episode. Like, I enjoyed that one. Yeah. I mean, I read somewhere that it took them 55 days to film it. They're filming in really cold weather and at night, and there was over 750 people on set, and it's just like, who does that for TV? That's a full feature film that might make millions and millions and millions of dollars. And as far as I understand it, it's the biggest war scene on television ever. But then it's bigger than the ones from Lord of the Rings. Like, and those are some really big scenes. And so I feel like, and I also watch at the end, the showrunners do little interviews, and they talked about that. Like, there's so many characters going on, or so many things going on, it's like you forget where people are. And then all of a sudden there she is. And I think it made it more impactful. And so I thought that was really neat. There were so many things about that episode that were really cool. And I know some people were hoping that it might go on longer, or that the Night King might not be killed in this particular episode. But I thought it worked out well.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And because you needed to, it was like almost like you needed to take a breath after that episode, because there were some really big losses in that. And so I really liked in the following episode that it opens with, and this is a really cool relationship element too, who went to set the blaze to each of the people who died. And like having that recognition in a moment, but the fact that Lyanna was with Jon Snow, and that was a really strong relationship. And that Theon was with Sansa, and like all of those individual moments, I think that like was such a beautiful tribute to those character relationships. So I think that you needed that, have one episode focused on that. The Night King's gone, that was some resolve, give a breath, honor those characters and relationships, and then there's still some unresolved business at King's Landing that we have to take care of.
Yes, and one new relationship that we saw this season, Sansa and Dany.
Yeah, that was...
They did not seem to enjoy each other's company, and Sansa was always giving her side eye. And I think it's really interesting, because I think that Sansa, not having met Daenerys before, is very questioning her behaviors and things like that. Like, why would we need to rest? But also, how are we going to feed these people? Really reasonable and logical questions. And those things don't seem to matter to Dany, right? Like, well, what did dragons eat? Whatever they want, right? Yeah. It's all about her. It's all about her goals. And then directly after that episode, she immediately wants to go destroy Cersei. Like, so it's like, can we rest?
Yeah.
Like, that was an exhausting episode for us to watch. Imagine spending that evening thinking that you're going to die in the crypts. Even that is stressful. Or any of the people in battle. Like, Ghost lost an ear, folks. Like, give him a break. The dog needs to relax. Give him a treat. A little pet on the other ear, maybe. Which was quite some controversy this season. Yeah. Is that Jon did not say goodbye to his dog, but they were reunited.
They were.
I keep saying dog because, like, I think that's the connection we make, that they're much like our pets, like our family. Although they are direwolves. I keep saying dog, so that's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's interesting bringing up that point about the tension between Sansa and Dany, because it's also, you have these two strong female leaders and like kind of two different sides to a coin of Dany really being so motivated by that, like, that her own individual drive and what's going to be self-serving in that, whereas Sansa's always thinking about the people, and she demonstrates a very different type of leadership than Dany does. So seeing that being a really big friction pressure point in their interactions and their relationship is really interesting to see that play out. And also Jon kind of being caught in the middle of that, and Sansa being like a protective sister, and then Dany, you know, their strange relationship. So
Jon is like, I mean, he's died and come back, and he's fought many battles, and we discover that he is the true heir to the Iron Throne. He's a Targaryen, and so that is problematic for Daenerys, but they still see him as a Stark, and so he's king of the North, and, you know, so, but he's not assertive.
No.
He is very much like, I'm going to do whatever I can to protect people, but, like, making decisions about other things is really not his suit. So it's almost like it would have been perfect if him and Sansa could have ruled together, because I think he would have been a very good ahead of the master of war, head of army. She would have been queen, and then having like Tyrion or Bran as hand of the queen, you know, something like that. And we always, I think, knew Arya was going to be like, deuces, I'm out.
Right. Yeah.
Which, that's how it ended. So, like, just as a reminder, okay, how do we break down last night's episode? Tyrion walks through King's Landing in absolute shock of what she has done in the previous episode, where her and the dragon, we know that if the bell rings, that the people of King's Landing are saying we bend the knee or we're done, and instead the bells almost triggered something else in her or in the dragon. Give her the benefit of the doubt, maybe, I don't know. And they basically set the town on fire, murdering women, men, children, everyone. Their people.
Right.
Like, and on the ground, Grey Worm, who's the head of her armies, is killing people too. Like, after the bell ringing, I think Jon is only killing anyone that specifically attacks him, but otherwise is trying to get it to stop. So in the series finale, you have Tyrion walking through, looking for his sister and brother, discovers them underneath basically their castle went down because of the flames and underneath all of the rocks. So they were trying to escape and get away with the help of Tyrion, and that didn't happen. So Jaime and Cersei from womb to tomb.
From womb to tomb. Put that on a t-shirt.
And if you might recall, I wanted Jaime Lannister to become the king, the hand of the king with Jon Snow on the Iron Throne, and as we'll see, that didn't happen. So yeah, Jaime and Cersei died and being crushed to death, and I know some people are unhappy that Arya or Sansa or Tyrion or whoever else didn't kill Cersei, and that Jaime kind of left Brienne, like, he just played her.
Yeah, he did.
But I think he went back to what was comfortable.
He did.
What he knew, and he was not and he said, I'm not a good person, and he wanted to die in the arms of the woman he loved, and that's essentially what happened. And I know people wanted Cersei to have a more meaningful death, but I think in a way she was so problematic that her being scared and just terrified might have been the best way for her to go. Like, there isn't maybe a satisfying way, and, you know, like having like a one-liner and Arya's like, and then I don't know.
And I think also you saw Cersei kind of lose power throughout the season, and I don't think that Dany would have been as terrifying and wouldn't have been able to fully take that character turn if Cersei was equally as powerful and destructive in that moment. So to literally just see her looking out a window, seeing her entire city fall to the ground, and then to be literally crushed under the one thing that she had fought so hard to protect. I think it was kind of a poetic justice in a sense of her dying underneath the castle. And I'm not surprised about Jaime. It's like we had said earlier, you know, the writing was on the wall as much as we wanted.
No, it wasn't.
I know.
That's the one I fight to the end.
It was pretty heartbreaking. I did appreciate that there was some redeeming, that Brienne had that, even though he did not deserve this from her at all, but that she was writing in the book that they have, or the history of all of the knights and the King's Guard, to really have that he died protecting his queen, and that was his story, and that's where he ended. So I'm really not shocked with that, and I'm really kind of. I never really thought I'd find myself feeling sorry for Cersei, but in that moment, I really did.
Yeah,
my heart broke a little bit.
And maybe that's what's supposed to happen. Yeah. We're not just always supposed to hate her because people are complicated. And even in certain moments, people who are terrifying can also be terrified, right? Mm-hmm. And then Tyrion finding them was really sort of devastating. Oh. And I think that he wanted them to get out, and but still for Dany to take over there. But then when she flipped the script and sort of burned them down, even though the bells had gone off, that I think he was just done, right? And I think in that moment, as we saw in the previous episode, that he was more upset about Jaime than he was about his sister, because Jaime, he said, is the only person who didn't treat him like a monster.
Yep.
And so he had a lot of love and respect for his brother. So you see Tyrion then go up to the queen, and I was like, oh my God, kill her. I was like, maybe Tyrion kills Dany. I was like, she's not.
I thought so
after
too.
What she did to the King's Landing, I was like, there's no way. That would be, I realized that the author doesn't always have a happy ending, but I was like, that's going to be so you can just do whatever you want and succeed ending, and I didn't like that at all.
No, it was satisfying to see him literally throw off his hand of the queen pen and just have that moment of he's gone through a lot of character development too, and he's been playing the game well this whole time through this whole journey. So to see him make the right move there, what I would consider to be the right move, was really satisfying. And
even if it meant that he was going to die.
Oh yeah,
because he was then taken into custody, and so it was Jon going to him and then having the conversation with Dany, and I was literally like, did Jon drink the Kool-Aid? Because he is on board with Dragon Death Lady over here, and I was like, this doesn't seem right. But then as they're kissing, he gets her, stabs her, Dany dies,
right where her father died.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Which is, I had a feeling that it would be something of the sort. It was going to be, there was going to be a parallel to whenever the first Mad King went,
and so that takes that whole journey full circle again, right? Yeah. Even though it might have happened faster than people thought, and that given, like I was saying before, about perhaps the climate, sort of contextualizing what's going on the show, that it seems problematic that Dany would just go mad, and,
right?
But I think it did go full circle, and then you see her dragon just.
I know. Whenever he's trying to wake her up,
I was like, she's dead, baby, but it's okay.
It's a true Lion King moment.
Yeah, it sure was. I'm like, wake up, Dad. No, not waking up.
Not happening.
And so the dragon, in revenge, so to speak, to his mother dying, was he just burned the crap out of the Iron Throne. So joke's on us. No one sat on the Iron Throne technically.
Right. True. And I
wanted to have that moment where someone literally sat down.
I thought that would be the ending scene. We're gonna see whoever it was.
Yes.
Sitting that was gonna be it. Yeah. But I really enjoyed that it didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
Because it's really they're creating a new world.
Yeah.
And so in that you can't have it the way that it was. And to have that visual, the symbolism of the Iron Throne literally being melted down, to be able to create that new beginning was needed.
Yeah, and then that's what we see in the rest of the episode, is all the people coming together and determining who the queen or king was going to be. And through all that discussion, it's Bran, and he's like, why do you think I came all this way, suckers?
Right.
He's like,
all-knowing.
All-knowing. But it's there's a lot of talk where Sansa's like, he can't have children. So it's that's how they've always done it. It's the line, when the king died, then it's Joffrey, and you're like, oh god, not Joffrey,
right.
you know, like and that's how things happen. And I think that by having Bran become the king, it means that they have to choose who's going to be the king or queen, and not just base it on who's born to you or based on the family. And so that's how they create a new world. And then we see the new worlds that all of the Stark children who are still with us create. And I really like that. And I posted that on Twitter. I said it begins and ends with the Starks. Yeah. And that I actually enjoyed. Like, I too, like you, thought we'd have that final moment of someone sitting on the Iron Throne and like maybe the crown being placed on them. You know, that's what I was thinking might happen. But I enjoyed that, like, yes, you can't have a new world with this Iron Throne. No. There's no way it's possible. We have this new system. We have Bran, who's going to be the king. You have this new set of characters that will be, you know, in charge of the army, in charge of the coin, in charge of, what did Bronn say? Grammar. Or Davos said that in grammar. And so you have these new characters of people, and then, like I said, you see the Starks go, and you see Sansa becomes the Queen of the North, and she kept them separated. Yep. And that's where she really developed into. Like, she became a very strong leader, which I would have never guessed in season 1. No. Not at all.
It was the thing that she desired the most. Like, the desire to be a queen was always there from the very beginning.
But not in a way like Dany wanted. Dany just wanted the power.
Right. Yeah. And to see it more of like a kind of a young girl infatuation with, I want to be like Cersei. I want that. I want the royalty. I want the jewels. I want, you know, from her younger self in the first season, but then to see that growth and to see her being broken down and then growing up into this strong leader and wanting it for all the right reasons and being the right fit for all the right reasons.
Yeah, I think I talked about like how she viewed Joffrey as more like, it's like Teen Beat, Big Bopper, but like she's doing, like you said, it's like she wanted it for the wrong reasons then. And she really learned what the right reasons are. And I make that comment without assuming that her storyline needed her to be sexually assaulted or anything. Right. I'm saying otherwise, like just being around the Lannisters, being around Littlefinger, like making decisions as she got older, working with Jon. Like, I think you see her grow into that despite that happening. Yeah. So I don't want to say that she became strong because of trauma.
But seeing the worst parts of power. Yes. And to learn from that, not even just from being around Cersei and being around that what the worst type of queen can be.
Yeah. And let's not do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, let's ask, how are we going to feed people? That seems like a reasonable question. Yeah. Why is no one else asking these questions? Right. Sansa has those questions. And so that I can completely appreciate. Then we see, like I said, Bran is essentially the Iron Throne taker, which I don't know if anyone saw coming. I don't even think he was considered an option.
Well, I think that he's going to play an important part. And you know that he literally can't die before passing off
all the knowledge.
Three-Eyed Raven knowledge, that moment, whatever. So he's important. He has to be protected. But I never really saw him as that king role. I thought, maybe he's going to be just like that counselor or some sort of a role
like on the council.
Right. In some aspect, but not as the king. But I think it made sense, and like it was the unexpected but right fit. And bloodlines be damned, like we're gonna have someone who is the right person for the role, even though we're not quite there with democracy.
Yeah,
God love you, Sam.
Tried, and everyone's like hilarious. Good.
But this like toxic monarchy is kind of slowly being turned away.
It's they're moving in the right direction, right? And I think with Tyrion as the hand of the king, who has so much experience with the Lannisters, obviously being one, and the Targaryen being the hand of the queen, and just being probably the smartest person on the show. Yeah. Like, I think that's great. And I really liked how he said that Bran was the past, like our memories, our past, our present, and the future. And I thought that was really interesting. And I'd always be like, do you think it's Sansa? Do you think maybe even Tyrion? But it was always like Jon, Dany, Cersei, like all these main players. And it's like, that makes lots of sense. And I think that he's the only one who would be able to say bloodlines be damned because he's unable to have children.
Yeah.
And I think that is interesting because Sansa could have children. Jon could have children. So truly, if you think about all the possibilities, like, he's really the only one that can help everyone move into a new world.
Yes.
Right? And then we see Arya. I saw some memes today talking about Arya left and is going to go create colonization.
I know.
And I was like,
saying that all day. I was like, please don't tell me this is going to be a spinoff of Arya the Colonizer. Like, can we not do that?
Like, I don't want that to be part of her story, but I think this idea of doing what was needed in all the time that was needed, and that now everything was settled, that she could go see what else exists. And so maybe she will discover things. I hope she doesn't.
Please don't colonize.
Please. I mean, I realize we talked about in the last episodes that time doesn't necessarily have any meaning here. But given the fact that there isn't technology, unless you count, like, the goof with the Starbucks cup and stuff, like, that it does feel like the past, right? And so I guess colonization might be the next step in history, but it's like, no.
Well, it's not.
And then it ends with Jon going back to
the north, the
I almost
true
said
north.
Castle Rock, but that's the Stephen King show that's on Hulu.
Right. Something to fill your time now, the Game of Thronesas.
Yes, exactly. I've been watching lots of Claws, and that show is great. Not exactly the same. It's a crime drama from TNT. But I highly suggest. Yeah. But anyways, so Jon.
I think that also, it felt right. Yeah. I think that ending, they all felt right to me. Yeah. But, it's like we went through this whole journey but he found out who he was. Yeah. He found out his true lineage and was able to make peace with that. And he never wanted the throne. No. It doesn't matter that he's the rightful heir in this new world.
He can't make decisions, people.
He really can't. I don't know how. He would need a really great counsel and,
he would need a lot of support. And I'm the one who picked him, to be honest, because I like him. But it's like, because I still do believe he's part of the moral compass. But I don't think he is suited for that because he tries to protect, but he is protecting, like, relationships rather than what's good for the people, like what Sansa would do, you know, like, no,
and
bro.
Because I think that it's so easy to be caught up in and to ascribe to what everyone has the whole time of, it would only make sense for it to be one of these 2 or 3 characters because they have the lineage, like they have the direct connection to the throne, so it can only be them.
And it's like a good, like, flip the switch.
And so now that, like, really changes that ideology for us. And so what's the alternative? Jon never wanted that. And back, Tormund said to him a few episodes back, you are a northern, like, you are part of the north, the true north, the north above the wall.
Ghosts.
And to be reunited with Ghost, which was also super satisfying, but to see him go back, some people were like, we went through all of this character development for Jon just to see him back where he started. Well,
sometimes you have to go on a path to really know that that's the right place for you.
Right. To have that development and that growth, and for him to really truly discover who he is, and then to know and be able to make peace with that's where he's supposed to be. And that he did love being there in the north, and he was a northern man.
He was supportive of the wildlings where he was with again. He's protecting people, like they might be going to see what else is out there. At some point, I guess the Night King comes back. I don't know. Hopefully not, right? But, like, there still might be other dangers to protect people, and I think that's what he does best. I think that's what he loves to do. But he's also, I said this, ever since he died and came back, he is on borrowed time. Yeah. And so who knows, maybe he'll live a full life after he died and then came back. But I still think that he truly discovered that's where he needed to be. And I think we are all very happy that he is with Tormund, who seems like they have a great relationship, great friendship. Although Sam isn't there, and that makes me a little sad. Yeah. But maybe they'll visit. But you have Sam, who I think is an extension of Jon on the council. Yes. And that, I think, is critical. But then you also have Ghost. And so it's like, what else do you need? You got friends, you're protecting people, and you got your quote-unquote dog/direwolf.
Yep. Couldn't be happier.
Done. And the music at that moment, too, just the dramatic theme music. I was like, oh yeah, get it. Yes.
And it was a beautiful shot, I think, to end on, even though I had this idea of the throne, but it started in the north, like the north. Like that's the first scene, and we saw, this it like opens up on this terrifying scene of, the White Walkers, but then to close on a scene where that's all defeated and they're walking off to venture into what's next. Yeah, I think beyond. It did close that circle.
And again, it goes with the idea of a new world. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. See, maybe people need to. We're so like haters. Thoughtful and optimistic, and like, but I think we do see that there have been lots of things that could have happened. Yeah. But I'm very happy with everything. But I will ask you this before we talk about a little bit more specific our thoughts about friendship and if we think our theory was supported. If you could change one thing, either like about the show or even about the ending, what would it be?
Wow.
I know that one I had written down, but I didn't tell her, so.
This is a good question.
Thank you.
About the show overall, like from the beginning?
Yes.
I think that it would have been beneficial, I think, for us to have a little bit more contextualization around the history and how the White Walkers came to be, the Children of the Forest. I know that was a very big element of the book, so I think that to really be able to appreciate and have understanding and closure with the Night King's death and that story arc coming to an end, I think more of the front loading of that, understanding the history behind that would be helpful. That's the first thing that comes to mind, and it's kind of more of those like meta topics, I think.
No, but I think it's one of those things that you might just like think about and just wonder about like what that all means. I have one obvious one, and then let's see, one other maybe less obvious one. I obviously didn't want Jaime Lannister to die.
That's true, too.
I didn't want him to go back to the Jaime Lannister that we knew in season 1, even though it's like, you can change as much, but when your back's against the wall, we become who we're familiar with, who we're comfortable with, like, and so, like, to protect ourselves or the people that are important to us. So I think he did ran a little dirty, but I think, in the grand scheme of things, like, I mean, he showed who he was, and maybe we can't change people, but we can change our reaction to them. Okay, for this season, though, I wanted more Bronn.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he did get... I mean, it was resolved.
It was.
It was resolved, but I feel like, because he basically went and essentially threatened Jaime and Tyrion, and then it was like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, where'd he go? And then it's like, hi, I'm the master of coin.
Right. There were some gaps there. Yeah. And I mean, like, you can't give attention to everything, but that's one for sure.
But at least it had a resolution.
It's true. And then I will amend to one more character specific, I think. Yes. Is that I really wish that there had been some representation and one character remaining from House Tyrell, because selfishly that's my favorite house.
Yes, I remember.
Every house is represented by at least one person, like one surviving character.
Yeah.
And maybe it's intentional, like, but I felt like that house was so critical and integral to every storyline development until
and then they were just decimated.
Last season. Yeah. Until Lady Olenna was killed last season. That was really the end. And they literally, there was just a assassination of the entire house.
Well, now that you say that, and I don't mean to interrupt you, so if you have more to say, feel free.
No, that's it.
Because, like, if we're going with this idea that bloodlines be gone.
True.
Like, maybe that's a foreshadowing in some way. And maybe you're like, okay, Alysa, you're stretching. But in the sense of, like, that entire house was decimated, and maybe there's a reason for it. But I do appreciate the house. But I also think it's interesting that the house that I support is pretty much mainly intact. I'm House Stark, obviously.
Yeah.
Direwolves, Jon, Sansa, Arya.
All the
R.I.P. the rest of you.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot Bran.
Bran.
Yeah, sorry. Bran and Bran.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that it definitely kind of plays into this new world, but at the same time, you do have all that representation for literally every other house, and even though they're not necessarily going to have they have power in different ways, and it's kind of more of this shared power of everyone coming together. It was a little disappointing.
Yeah.
To, you
just want your house represented.
Exactly.
Man. Yeah.
Golden roses.
So then, what do you think? I know we're about 45 minutes in, which I think we're good for time.
Yeah.
And I think this episode is about us coming together over Game of Thrones and becoming like closer in the aspect of being able to talk about this show together. So I'm going to call that the friendship part of it, which it counts, right?
Absolutely.
Totally. Because I think about all the people who interact with each other and how this show and how pop culture ultimately brings people together.
Absolutely.
And I think that's partially what's so amazing about it. But specifically, we had a theory about what was going to happen in season 6. And so it was regarding the relationships on the show. And so the idea was that whoever would end up on the Iron Throne would have to have friendships set. And so we were right. There's no one from toxic friendships that made any, they're all dead. Bye.
Yeah.
But we talked about, so in the previous episodes, we talked about loyal friendships, so true friendships. And then we talked about mentor friendships and then toxic friendships. And so although we did see some betrayal this season, overall, the toxic friends didn't really, that part of the theory ended up holding very true.
Yes.
So I'm feeling pretty good
about
friendship being the light in the dark and helping us get through and starting a new world. But what did you think? Do you think the theory holds up that to be on the Iron Throne, you have to have relationships?
I think so. And, going to Bran, who's now on the not existent Iron Throne, but who's now the king. We talked about Bran's friendships and the just the loyal friendships that Bran had that really kept him protected, and he survived through those friendships. And I think we saw a turn this season of Bran had always been protected, and he needed those relationships to survive and make it back. Yeah. But then I think he really repaid that and really turning into that mentor and using that knowledge and the history and being able to share that out. So I think that he's definitely someone that I would consider really benefiting and contributing to positive friendships and relationships.
Yeah.
And, for others, I think that some of those that we were kind of like the Arya and the Hound, for example, like one of those friendships that kind of went back and forth. But I feel like all of the friendships that persisted until the end ended on a positive note and ended in loyalty or ended in a good light. And so I think that we're really on point with our theory. HBO, if you want to hire us for show writers for a spinoff,
let's be real, like TV shows are nothing. Whatever your story is, it doesn't matter. It all comes down to relationships.
True.
And I would agree, like Bran, he had, specifically, I think in a lot of instances, you might see those loyal friendships that those people care about him, but they also know that there's a greater good need there as well. And so he had a lot of protection. So in a lot of cases, you might be like, where was he to protect Hodor, things like that. And so I think your point of him then paying it forward with knowledge is really sort of what comes from those relationships, and that you see him making these other ones now. And then that's going to be critical, because even sort of like the jokes between him and Tyrion and Brienne during their council meeting, you start to see that he knows, much like Sansa, there's a greater good. And so I think that he knows that relationships will be needed, whether they're loyal or mentor related relationships, to really make it work. And I don't think that you see him do anything specifically that is toxic. Like I said, you might be like, what did he do to protect Hodor? But I think Hodor was there for the ultimate good as well.
Right.
And that he, I don't want to say this because I think it sounds bad, but I'm going to say it anyways to make my point. It's like Hodor served his purpose.
Right.
And it's like he knew what that purpose was, and it's moving it forward beyond out of the control of the Night King and out of control of Cersei and into the new world.
Right.
So
and Bran honors that, and he does right by that, which I think is what's so important, that purpose was served. Yeah. And as hard as that was to see, Bran's going to remember that, and he's going to pay it forward.
Yep. Yeah, and so he, like, as being the person who's ultimately on the quote-unquote Iron Throne, I think he had relationships that made that happen. And some of them were friendship related. Some of them were sibling, which I call those sibling ships if they have friendships in that aspect. So his relationships with Jon and Sansa and Arya, I think also moving it into that direction. Although Sansa always has her reasoning or her logic in which to bring up, playing a little bit of devil's advocate. I think one of the loyal friendships that we didn't talk about last time, there's two that we didn't talk about last time that I think played critical roles this season. The first one is Tormund and Jon. And I think that you see it in previous seasons of like their ability to connect and jest with each other and that sort of thing, and then you see them going off essentially in the north together, and I think that is a bond that is not going to be broken, that they have each other's back. And so in some ways you might be like, what's Jon doing to Sam? But Sam is playing a very critical role, and as I mentioned before, he's like an extension of Jon on that council with Bran and Tyrion and so forth. But I think that is a really important friendship that will protect the North. And so I think that, and I guess we can talk about Ghost too. Ghost, again, the dog / direwolf. The second one, which might have a little bit more meat to it, and that is Tyrion and
Varys.
Yes.
Heartbreaking. I think that this was one of the hardest things to see from Tyrion, and I think what he also recognizes in himself as one of his greatest mistakes is betraying who he claimed is like his true best friend. And that was, and naming that, and to say, to make that really critical, devastating choice of kind of selling him out to Dany, knowing fully well what the result would be. And then, to have Varys also just like say goodbye, my friend, and to know what Tyrion did. But also I think there was some peace with that from Varys. I'm not surprised that was his outcome. I think that there was always kind of some element of, is he also, I don't know how he would thrive within the new world. So it was hard to see Tyrion sort of lose a little piece of himself in that. But I think that while he regrets it, and it's very clear he's going to spend the rest of his life redeeming that decision. I think that he still remained loyal to Varys and to that friendship, and really owning, I made a mistake.
And I wonder, like, because when you're in war and all these things that are going on, that ultimately, like, what is the outcome going to be? I don't think it necessarily makes it right, but it's like a means to an end. Like, that is a justification and rationalization that people use. And I think in that case, that might have been him selling him out, might have been the means to the end. Like, how would that have led Dany down a path, or what was going to happen in terms of going into King's Landing and that war with Cersei. And so I think, though, what I really respect about the interaction, one is that he calls him his best friend. Varys is Tyrion's best friend. And I was like, yes, tell people, let people know, even though this is maybe not the best moment. But I don't.
Friendship exists.
But I think, exactly. Like, let's label friendship. But we don't have to be like, this person is my only friend, this is my best friend, this is this and this and this. Like, we can be more fluid with our labels. But the fact that they're even recognizing friendship, I think, is critical. So I appreciate that. And that Varys' response in terms of, like, how he accepts what's going on. And, maybe he realizes he won't. Like you said, you don't think he would thrive very well in the new world. And maybe he knows that as well, that this is we're on this path, and this is the right way to do it. And maybe it's all to get Jon on the Iron Throne. And so again, it might be a means to the end to get to a place where the world is going to be better. And I think the world would have been better with Jon. He just would have needed everyone to make his decisions for him.
Oh, Jon.
Go pet your dog. Okay.
We'll take care of it from here.
And so I think that was a friendship that we hadn't talked about before, but it's a consistent friendship throughout the show. And so I was glad to see it, but then also, it was sad to see, but I also appreciate that Tyrion knows that what he did was, that he needs to redeem himself for it. Like, so it's one thing to be a toxic friend, I guess, or to betray someone. It's another one to realize your mistake, understand it, label it, announce it and then try to do better from it, you know, like other than like, yeah, I didn't do anything, or you know, that he was like, I did this thing and I was wrong, and I will do everything I can to make up for it. And he's king of the hand, so yeah, you're well on your way then.
Yep, absolutely.
What about mentor friendships? How did that operate in the final season, do you think?
Well, we talked about Missandei and Dany.
Yes.
There's like kind of, I feel like there was a crossover between Loyal and Mentor.
Yes.
I think that that's one that's really critical to revisit, because Missandei's death is one of those contributing factors that really caused Dany's break.
And Grey Worm, I would say,
and
too.
And Grey Worm as well. And their relationship, and like, this is a group of people who has traveled literally to the ends of the earth to get where they are today. And Missandei being such a integral part of that, to lose her, and really to even have that, her last words being Dracarys, like that signal of, no, you burn this to the ground, you avenge me, you came here to set out to do what you're gonna do, and you need to do that. Fire and blood. Like, here we go.
I love the meme, though, that the actress retweeted who played Missandei on the next episode, when Dany literally burns King's Landing to the ground, and it's the Will Smith gif from oh gosh, what's the one where he's Hitch, I think. Yeah. I saw that going in my head differently. Like, she was like, oh, you're gonna kill children and men and women, but like, you could have burned them, but maybe not burned them, you know, maybe get Cersei, but not like the people.
Not like everyone.
Maybe not everyone. But yeah, I think that loss of friendship really did push Dany into even further into where she was in the decision making that was happening. And I know people probably would want that to happen differently, but I think we did need to see steps of Dany falling down several steps, so that it leads into the Mad Queen theory, even though it happened quickly, maybe more quickly than we would want, or we would hope. But I also think that we see Davos continues to be a strong mentor, and especially with Jon, and now on the council. And then you see the creation of a new council that is going to create new mentorships with Bran and Tyrion and Bronn as the Master of Coin, and Samwell, and then Davos and Podrick. Yeah, these are all people. Bronn's kind of a troublemaker, but they're all fan faves. Exactly. Yeah. And like, who doesn't want to be on that council? Which I guess, who else would you add to that council? If you could add one other character to that council, who would it be?
One character. Wow. I was kind of thinking about, and they had talked about, we're missing a few people. Like, we're missing a Master of Whispers. And so I don't know. I think that, kind of going back to what I had said earlier about missing someone from my favorite house Tyrell, like, it would be great to see like Lady Olenna on there if she had made it. Just selfishly, that being one of my favorite characters. I think that, while Arya has her journey that she needs to take, and she's still young, and she's not, I don't think that being confined to a council role would really be to her benefit. I think it would be interesting to see her as that like Master of Whispers, because of her training, and because like, having the faces, and so I think that could be cool. But also, I know that really couldn't be achieved given her mission and who she is. Yeah, there's no way. It's like saying like, oh, you're a chef, but now you work in an office from, like someone who's out and about in nature, and then it's like, now you work in a cubicle. Like, it might not fit their nature, and it can. But I also forgot, I mentioned all the people, and then I forgot to mention Brienne is also on the council. I think that if we're gonna add in a fan favorite, wouldn't it be Gendry? And when yeah, but I saw a meme too, like, he's on that ship somewhere. He's looking for he's on the hunt, or he's like Arya. On his own like little ship, like finding his way. Yeah, maybe they'll both find their way, and then they'll find each other. Yeah, hopefully. I liked that. That was a good little plot line. Yes, appreciated that. Like, when they were saying we're missing a couple people, I thought, oh, is Gendry coming in? But you have Podrick. But yeah, there's maybe you need like a master of food, and you bring in like hot pie. Hot pie, yes. Master Chef.
And then, like, if I could bring back someone, I would probably be like, the Hound. They need, like, that person that isn't the crazy zombie mountain.
Yeah. And to go off of, as you mentioned, the Hound, I think that was someone who, from a mentor relationship with him and Arya, I think that they had a really beautiful ending.
I liked it.
As someone who also, like we had talked about, there's so much back and forth in their relationship, but to see them kind of come full circle, and I think, he really became that father role to her as well, and filled some of those holes. Yeah. And so I think that also it was very much, as we see, like, a full circle, he knew he was going to come back for his brother, and he knew he was going to kill his brother. And to die by fire, like, that was just,
again, full circle. I knew that there would be a showdown with the mountain. Like, I had to. Like, sometimes there's just, like, these are have to moments. Yeah. And, like, that was it. But I did appreciate the final, like, journey with Arya. Like, the buddies are back on the road again.
That was really cute.
Cutest buddy movie ever. The Hound and Arya.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I really did like that. I'm trying to think if there's other, we talked a lot about Jon and Sam. I think that their friendship lasted and they're just apart now. And so sometimes that happens where people have to do things from a long distance. I think that Brienne and Podrick being able to be on the council together. Oh, talk about another buddy movie.
Yes!
Out on the road again.
Yep.
So overall, I feel like we had enough support to show that friendships make a difference. And if you're going to create a new world, why not create a council that's got those on there? And they're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty pleased that, I think I would have loved it if, again, it was like, the hand of the king or queen and the king or queen were, like, besties. But, I mean, sometimes you can't work with your besties, you know?
Yeah, but I also think that there was, an early on, just like a relationship or a recognition or some tie between Bran and Tyrion. I mean, he had the thing made for him so he could ride a horse, taking it way back to the beginning seasons.
Oh yeah.
There's like the famous line of like bastards and broken things, or it was bastards and
yeah, I know what you're talking
about.
What I'm
saying? So like being someone who is outcast and rejected from society is a bastard, him being a dwarf, and then Bran being crippled. So like I think that was something that really tied him and Bran and Jon together. So it was interesting to see them come back and have that connection at the end.
Well, actually, if you think about it, isn't the entire council just a bunch of misfits?
Yeah, really.
Because Sam was, like, not accepted at the Knights, what do you call it?
The Castle Black.
Yes, Castle Black.
Yeah.
Which I previously called Castle Rock. Castle Black, one is Stephen King, one is not. So he was sort of on the outside there. You have Bronn, who basically is this, like... just a troublemaker, jokester, wanting his castle and wanting some money, but, like, doing it in a very charming and fun way. You have Brienne, who is a knight, but it was never truly accepted in that sense. You have Bran, who's crippled, or just, well, more appropriately, disabled. You have Tyrion, who's, a small person. You have, like, all these, and then here they all are on the, and then Davos, who was illiterate and is now on the council. So it's like...
Yep.
I love it. All the popular kids are gone.
Yes. Yep. New world.
New world. Taken over by the nerds and the misfits.
Yes.
I'm pleased.
I am too.
Yeah. What other final thoughts do you have about anything?
I don't know. I think final thoughts for me would just be... It's nice to see something. It's nice. It's like kind of like that happy, sad moment but also being grateful of like having that emotional closure of something you've invested so much. And I think that is to the credit of this story and everyone who was a part of making this happen. And I think for all of the fans, I think that we almost had like a huge, it's cool to have like the world watching this end last night, and the world's in, you know, the huge fan base that this show has.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really cool to see how, as you had mentioned earlier, relationships can be built out of that.
Yeah.
To be able to talk about this cultural experience that was one of the most profound TV shows in the decade, probably for decades to come. Yeah. So I'm wearing a Game of Thrones t-shirt today, and
a girl has no name.
A girl has no name, and my Jimmy John's delivery person was like, "Hey, what'd you think of the finale?" And so we had this connection and this moment talking about that. This person who I don't know, who like we're literally just talking at my door as he's giving me a sandwich about and having that moment. So I think that just shows how powerful this show and this story has been. So I think that while it's sad to see it end, like I'm just so appreciative for what it was and what it can continue to be.
Yeah. Well said. I think it's really neat for a lot of different reasons. Like, we had known each other previously, but then when it's like, oh, Game of Thrones, and it's like, hey, you know, I'd be like, send you memes, texting, like, did you see this? Did you see that? And so it does bring people together, and I've always believed that, you know, TV is something that brings people together, and that if you watch just a handful of different shows, there's going to be lots of different people that you can connect with that you might not have anything else in common. And just thinking about all the people who love Game of Thrones, like some people, you know, you might not ever think that they would be into that show, or you might not have anything else in common, but to be able to have that conversation at your doors, you're like, can you give me my sandwich? But also you're like, can we talk about this for 17 minutes too? Yeah. You know, and be able to, I'm on groups on Facebook that are like a friend group of people who watch it. I've been texting with my favorite Murderino friends. I've been, there's a Murderino subgroup called Thronerinos, where it's all, like, the last several weeks, it's just, like, all these different posts and memes and theories and getting together and discussing, and it's just amazing to see that things can do that. And I think that Game of Thrones has been one of those pop culture phenomenon, like Harry Potter, right? You know? Yeah. And so the next thing would be, well, what is the next thing, right? And what I love so much about this is being a part of it and being able to, like you said, be invested in it and invested in the characters. And, like, that isn't going to change. Like, you're not going to stop wearing that shirt tomorrow because it's no longer on, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, Harry Potter has been done for a long time, but people still talk about it all the time. What house are you in? Well, I'm house, you know, I'm a Hufflepuff, but I'm also Stark, you know, like, and so I think it's just one of those things that we will carry with us for a very long time, and that it's quite magical when those things can happen because it can bring people together in ways that other people would never imagine it happening. And so the other thing I appreciate, though, is that I can continuously watch it over and over. I know some people joked online, well, now I can cancel HBO, and I'm like, why? I want to immediately start from the beginning and watch the whole thing again, right? Yeah. And I want to watch Big Little Lies, and I want to see Watchmen coming out in the fall, and, like, Stranger Things 3 is coming out. I'm like, what are you people doing? There's other pop culture phenomenons to get on board with, you know? So, I mean, it's just been a wonderful experience in that sense, but also just to appreciate that in a TV show that you wouldn't anticipate being about friendship.
Yeah.
And I think as someone who loves friendship and always trying to get people to think about their friendships or just to see friendship in the world, I'm like, even Game of Thrones had friendship. I just want to let you know.
Yep.
And so I can use that as an example. Well, okay, don't do what Littlefinger does, right? Let's not manipulate people, but maybe be more like Samwell or Tormund. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like now I can give Game of Thrones friendship advice, and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah. Endless possibilities.
There is endless possibilities. And so, I mean, this has absolutely been so fun to talk about with you. And, like, we didn't talk about it at all before we started recording because I didn't want anything to be, like, trying to recreate, like, this has all been, and I don't think there's been even a moment of lull. We've just been like, da-da! No. But in an organized fashion, I might say.
Yeah. This is our authentic take.
This is our authentic
Fresh off
take.
the finale.
Yes. So I think Haley and I would love to hear what you have to say about the series finale, about how the Starks came to be, who ended up on the quote-unquote Iron Throne, and maybe how you saw friendship in the Game of Thrones. So we want to hear it. tweet at us, Best Forevers Pod. You can get on Instagram, Facebook, email me at bestforevers.pod@gmail.com. And until next time, think about a pop culture phenomenon that can bring your friends together, or really look to Game of Thrones for friendship advice. Because without our friends, who would we be? Thanks for listening to Best Forevers. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and of course, share with a friend. Please be sure to follow Best Forevers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Best Forevers Pod, and I'm at Dr. Alysa Lucas on Twitter. You can always find the podcast webpage for more information at bestforeverspod.com, and share your stories of friendship by emailing me at bestforeverspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the movement to love on our friends more, check out the podcast on patreon.com/bestforeverspod. Now, friends, check out this recommended podcast that you must get in your ear holes immediately.
What podcast brings you true stories of exceptionally smart and insanely dumb crimes every week?
Dumb and Busted, obviously.
But Hannah, where's your one-stop shop if you want to hear about a killer nurse, a pervy arsonist, or a group of hella old dudes breaking into a vault?
Dumb and Busted. Allison, come on, seriously? We host the show together.
Okay, last question. Where can I go if I need to hear the #1 song of 1999, I Want It That Way?
What? The Backstreet Boys album Millennium? How did we even get on this tangent?
Oh, okay. Sorry for being the only one who's ever fallen victim to their tight harmonies and timeless songs. Anyway, please listen and subscribe to Dumb and Busted on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
Crime you later!